Hi guys, welcome back. My apologies for the silence over the last 2 weeks. Life happens, and I've just been stuck with work and other things that end up taking up more of my time and are ultimately more important to my, let's say, survival. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is that I'm bringing you a review which I've really had quite a lot of fun doing, and it focuses, as you can see, on an all EarAcoustic lineup. I've been getting some of this stuff over the last couple of weeks. I started out with what is basically the top of the line, the STA Hi End Max. Then I decided to try the STA Hi End. Then I decided to, let's see now what the double DD units are like. So I tried the STA Hi End Max and the STA Pro Max. And it's been quite an experience in the sense that, as I mentioned when I did the review for the STA Hi End Max, that this is basically a continuation of TFC, and TFC, as we know, has always had its own very particular way of doing things. Perhaps maybe they got stuck a little bit in time when it came to their previous releases over the last couple of years, but the reality is this: they've had some really good IEMs, and as I mentioned when I did the review, the TFZ, the number 3, was a phenomenal IEM. Perhaps maybe a little bit misunderstood, because at the time, people were focusing more on the more of a Harman style, or going towards more of a Harman style of tuning being the only way possible of doing a tuning which was going to be likable. And TFC has always stuck to that very particular type of V-shaped signature, yes, but a V-shaped signature that doesn't bring along with it, the main negative aspects, which is it becomes monotonic or becomes boring or becomes tiresome because of things that, like the bass not having any texture, or the bass not being resolving enough, or the mids just being camouflaged by the bass. And the reality is, although they had a tuning which set itself apart from what was the norm a couple of years ago, and what is the norm to a certain extent still today, because if it isn't Harman in its various variations, then it kind of isn't properly tuned. And as you guys know, I've always been a fan of any type of tuning as long as it's well done, and that's the reality. With the SPA Hi End Max, obviously we were talking about an IM which is close to $300, $289, if memory serves me right, and of course, for a single DD, when you're at that price point, you are going to have certain expectations, and as I mentioned as well when I did the review, those expectations were met. That's the reality, they were met. Yes, you have plenty of other options, but if you want an IM which does what it was proposed to do very well, it might not be the ultimate in terms of audiophile correctness. If you want that sort of audiophile correctness, there are perhaps other IMs which will be better suited. But if you want an IM which follows a more, let's say, I'm going to call it pop culture tuning, but where that tuning has been done in a very well, it's been very well done, definitely this is going to satisfy you. I'm not going to say that it's better than let's say a Tanstrom Origin, or better than a MIM Dark Magician. I'm not going to say that it's better. What I'm going to say is that it's a very solid complement to those IEMs and what those IEMs do well. Okay, and that obviously then made me, okay, let's see what the other models are about. So I tried here the SPA Hi End, which is in essence the Hi End Max. I mean, it's the shell is exactly the same. The difference here is that the shell is now all resin, as you can see by the knocking, but it's still got those crazy vents that you see here that obviously, in my opinion, are responsible for a lot of the magic that happens in the way that these IMs has been tuned. It also still uses that 11.4 millimeter titanium driver or titanium diaphragm driver. The difference that we have here with the STA Hi End to the Hi End Max is that the impedance has changed slightly. It's got a slightly lower impedance. While this is 30 ohms, this is now 23 ohms. And what that has brought to the equation is a tuning which is very similar. I mean, it's you can definitely tell these are brothers. It's just the level of the energy level that we have past pinna gain on one and on the other is slightly different. Okay, you can say that perhaps on the Hi End Max that energy level is a little bit more as compared to the bass, while here it's more kind of on the level of what we have on the bass. But on the other hand, because we have now a different impedance level or impedance rating, sorry, when you listen to the SPA Hi End, you very much get the same kind of vibe as you get on the Hi End Max. So, and what do I mean by that? I mean that you get the same sort of nice, rich, full bass, which is very impactful, but very clean, very capable of handling all sorts of tracks without, getting into trouble or getting muffled or getting notes mixed up and trampling each other. So you got a nice, clean bass, which is nice and warm. It transitions into the mids, in my opinion, again, very, very well. Okay, fine. If what you are looking, and again, I repeat this, if what you are looking for is ultimate cleanliness in those mids, then EarAcoustic, for the most part of, or at least for the ones that I have listened to, is not going to be that IM. What they give you is a musical presentation, and that's the thing that I think is the most important. Are you looking for a clinical, cold presentation, or are you looking for a musical, old school type of presentation? Okay. And again, let me make sure that this is perfectly clear. Yes, you do have the IMs that kind of basically do both things very well. That's undeniable. That's there's not even a question about that. But it's the same thing. Do you like more SUVs? Do you like more sports cars? Do you like more saloons? It's kind of, it's what you prefer, and each one of them will have their characteristics and what they do best and what they don't do best. And with the SPA Hi End, you get very much the same sort of sound that you get on the Max, at a significantly lower price. We're talking about $149 here, which is, it's roughly half the price of the Max. Yes, we lose the nice all metal shell. That's a reality, but for the most part, it's basically the same IM in terms of its construction. You still get the same cable. And what you do notice above all in terms of the sound difference is that because it's now a resin shell as opposed to a metal shell, you notice that in the upper mids and treble, there's just a little extra more warmness here as opposed to there. So if I was to try and be, I'm not going to be nitpicking because, they both sound fantastic to me. But if I was going to here try and give a point where they will be slightly different, is that perhaps those that want a little bit more detail up top, the Max might be the better suited because of the fact that metal shell is helping out in that aspect. If you are more of a warm, more organic kind of presentation with just ever so slightly a little bit less detail, and I'm talking about the cymbals maybe not being as incisive. I'm talking about maybe the guitar plucks here and there in certain songs not being as squeaky clean, then the SPA Hi End will do a perfect job. I mean, honestly, I don't want to sound like I'm shilling and that, oh no, here's Tony now pushing EarAcoustic and saying that EarAcoustic is no, guys. I think I've already made it very clear that when I like something, I like it, and I don't have any issues with saying that I like it, and making sure that enthusiasm that I have is put forth. And when I don't like it, I say it as well. Okay. And the truth is this: in the tri-fi market right now, we have so many things. So many brands, so many models coming out every week, that when you do get a brand like EarAcoustic that seems to kind of have done their work, seems to kind of really have studied not only the market, but have also studied what they wanted to give to the market, to offer the market. And you see, as I have seen now with these 4 models, that they have really ticked the right boxes. I cannot help myself but to praise them, and that's the reality. If you have or a genuine taste for music, and what you are wanting to, and what you are looking for when you buy a pair of IEMs is an IEM that will satisfy you in terms of the listening experience by giving you countless hours of just non-fatigue listening. And that's one thing that you can be sure that the STA Hi End Max will give you, is a non-fatigue listening experience that I can guarantee you. Then I cannot but recommend them. That's the reality. I cannot but recommend this, because this is genuinely a very nice sounding IEM. It's as simple as that. There's no ifs or buts, or no, it's a nice sounding IEM. Now it's all a question of, can you afford it or you cannot afford it? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's the reality. Some of us just don't have the financial capabilities. But now, having said that, if you want to experience a single DD IEM and you have $150 to spend, and you want to try something which is genuinely different, this is definitely one of those IEMs that you should consider. And again, very much like I said, when I reviewed back a couple of months ago, when I reviewed the FIO, the FD15. The FD15 is a phenomenal IEM. Really good IEM, which follows that tuning philosophy, for example, of the MIM Dark Magician. Everything a little bit more neutral, but everything in the right amount and in the right quantity to give you a presentation, to give you an experience which is very enjoyable. And this joins that sort of IEM. It's an extremely enjoyable IEM to listen to. It's as simple as that, honestly. Okay, that's that out of the way. In terms of the accessories, it's very much what you still get on the Hi End Max. The same case, the same cable, tips, everything is the same. What basically has changed to justify, let's say, the price difference is that you now have a shell which is not all metal, and that's that. And as far as I was able to ascertain, the driver is exactly the same titanium diaphragm driver. One is 149, the other one is 289. If you can't afford, or if you cannot stretch your wallet out that far, then this is definitely a solid option. I will be trying, even I will hopefully get in the coming week the cheaper model to this, and then I'll also let you guys know what that's all about. Anyway, we then have here the double DD models, and I've got here, let's say, the respective top of the line of those two double DD ranges, because they've got basically the STA, let me just, okay. Well, the box we really don't need to understand, but what basically we get is the STA Hi End Max, okay, which is this one here. Focus would be nice, okay. As you can see, again, it's an all resin shell. It's not metal. And let me just, okay, as you can see, it's not metal. It's got 2 drivers, a 10 and a 6mm. And then we have, sorry about that, and then we have the STA, the Pro Max, okay, which again, it's basically the same shell, just the faceplate has changed, okay. Again, also resin. Let me just show you. All right, there we go. Okay, just the faceplate is metal, if you noticed there. Okay, that faceplate is metal, but not the actual body. The bottle is resin. Again, a 10 and a 6mm. The difference that exists between the two of them is that one has, so the STA Hi End Max has got a 10mm DLC driver and a 6mm composite, while the STA Pro Max has got a 10mm LCP driver and a 6mm titanium. This goes for $89. This goes for $79. So again, I think well in line with other dual DD IEMs out there. And when I say that, I'm talking about obviously about the HIFIGO collaboration with Tangzhou that goes for more or less the same value. I'm talking about now it's come down a little bit in terms of price, but the Tiger initially was at around these values around $60 or $70. It's now come down significantly. You now have the Shell, which is more or less the same thing, or was initially the same sort of price, but now has also come down ever so slightly. But it's these. Oh, you got as well the Tino from Shanling, which is again around the 70 give or take price bracket, $70 price bracket. But anyway, these two IEMs, they focus on let's say not the more expensive dual DD IEMs, but the mid-range of dual DD, affordable dual DD IEMs. You still got you still got in that kind of price bracket, you still got the likes of the IVipQ Shanling. You've also got the LTCL, the triple driver as well from them. So there's quite a few, let's say, IEMs or alternative dual or triple DD IEMs that can be found within the price bracket that these two IEMs fall into. In terms of sound, again, what we have here? Well, we have, as I said earlier, the same approach as on the single DD models, but because of the fact that we now have two drivers, you notice that the one thing that's very noticeable, especially on the STA, the Hi End Max, is that you have a really large soundstage. Okay, the ability to give you that sensation of a large venue is very noticeable, even more so than on these two. That's not saying that the soundstage on these two is not good or that it isn't realistic, or no, it is good and it is realistic. You would even maybe perhaps consider the soundstage and the imaging capability of this IM to maybe come across even perhaps somewhat fake or somewhat pushed. But no, I'm not gonna go down that road. I just feel that the fact that you have two actual drivers now doing the work, it just enables things to just come forward in a different manner and to be presented in a different manner. And I don't think that there's any that the sound here is in any way more or less colored than it is there, although I can understand if that was the perception that some people might have. As a whole, in terms of the sound that both of them offer, I would say that this one is slightly more alive. This one is slightly more subdued. So kind of the same situation that you have here, slightly more energetic in the mids, upper mids and treble, a little bit less here. But if the difference here is noticeable, but it's something that for the most part you really it won't come across that easily, okay? Over here, you do notice that difference more easily. And I'm guessing it's down to the fact that you are using drivers which have got a completely different diaphragm arrangement. So DLC and a composite. Here you have an LCP and a titanium. DLC, we know that they have a tendency of being drivers which usually are a little bit more on the brighter side, a little bit more open. LCP has a tendency of being a little bit more closed down in the lower frequency, in the upper frequencies, in the upper mids, and treble a little bit. But then they've compensated that by using then a titanium driver. But it's noticeable that although you have these differences, that this one is still the one that's more energetic. Let's call it the brightest sounding one. But having said that, you have exactly the same sort of sound as you have on the two more expensive single DD models. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you still have this absolutely amazing bass. the bass is not something that, again, I can in any way criticize, because if there is any criticism possible or any nitpick that I can give for any of them, is that it is not a audiophile neutral correct bass. No, it's not. It's a fun, organic, musical bass. End of story. It's like I've said many times in previous reviews when I do my comparisons. It's like you're listening to those really huge speakers that we had, home speakers that we had in the 70s and in the 80s, which used these great big 18-inch woofers or 15-inch woofers. I'm talking about some stuff that Sony made back in the day. I'm talking about some stuff that Kenwood made back in the day, Trio, Pioneer, Sansui. They all had that kind of approach, a really big, huge driver for the bass, but it was of a high quality, and so they always gave those speakers this large sound that was still very plenty dynamic. It wasn't just a boombox, okay? And that's exactly what is happening here. You have this bass which is very well executed, be it on the STA Hi End Max or be it on the STA Pro Max. The bass in either one of them is really well executed. It's got weight, it's got the right amount of weight, it doesn't bleed excessively or in any negative manner into the mids. So the vocals come across clean, detailed, yes, maybe a little bit, let's say, warmer than those looking for a perfect audiophile sound will want. If, for example, I was to compare that part of the spectrum here to something like the Shanling, or to something like from the Shanling, the Tino, or something like the IVipQ, the Shanghai, the IVipQ 14, the Shanghai, those two have got a little bit more openness in the vocals, yes, but again, on the opposite end, they don't have the sort of bass that we get here, that authoritative bass that's present, that you feel that there's, let's call it cubic inches here, okay? So bass on either one of them is really well executed. And then mids, in my opinion, again, really well done. I would even dare to go as far as saying that if I take into consideration the price, that the mids on the STA Hi End Max are perhaps on the same level as the mids here of the SPA Hi End Max, and perhaps slightly better on more than one occasion actually than the mids on the SPA Hi End. That's how good I actually found the mids to be here, and that's taking into account the fact that we're talking $89. That's $200 more, and for it to be having mids which are the same kind of quality, I think that speaks loads for how good I actually was, or how well I was impressed with the STA Hi End Max. In terms then of the upper mids and the treble as well, really clean, very detailed. I didn't find that there to be any occasion where there was harshness or any sibilance or anything of the sort. And I think to a great extent, the fact that we have this nice bass energy coming from behind also helps out in camouflaging any possibility of that happening. Keep in mind that I did do most of the listening with the Yuki and the Cayenne RU7, which again I think something which has got a Cirrus Logic chip. I think will be the, for me at least, mind you, I think will be the sort of deck or amplifier or whatever you want to call it that will better suit these IMs. I found when I did try the M15, for example, on the Q-Style M15, when I tried it here on the SPA Hi End Max, I found that tendency of ESS decks to be bright sounding did make the sound here of the SPA just, I'm not going to say harsh or rough, no, but it just, for me and to my ears and to what I like listening, it just made it sound not as pleasant as with the Cirrus Logic stuff like the Yuki here and a few others, or even the Fire the Q15. The Fire the Q15 I think also suits very well these IEMs from EarAcoustic. Anyway, getting back here to the STA, the Hi End Max and the STA Pro Max, mids on both of them I think are really well executed. The only reason why I don't maybe give the Pro Max, I'm not going to say they lose. I'm not being fair if I say that. This is just because of the fact it's just got a slightly more closed down sound. The mids can sometimes sound just a little bit overly husky on certain vocals, but again, look, that's me just really nitpicking. That's me really trying to find a fault than honestly there really existing a fault. Okay, and then in terms of the high frequency, like I said, although that's got the titanium 6mm driver, this has got a composite driver. I found the high end here, the upper frequencies here, to be a little bit more resolving. So in terms of micro details, there's a little bit more here than there. Having said that, and touching up on in terms of the technicalities, which is something that I forgot to mention about also here in the SPA, the high end. Timbre and tonality, as you guys know, is something which I very much appreciate. Okay, and now, if I was going to talk about timbre and tonality in terms of its overall correctness for an audiophile presentation, then maybe these are not again the ideal. Although having said that, I think the timbre and tonality here on the SPA Hi End Max is pretty much faultless in my opinion. When we're talking about the Hi End Max, the timbre and tonality is really good, although, and it's only fault if now I'm being, like I said, taking that more audiophile correctness of timbre and tonality, the warmth that it has makes things sometimes sound not as natural as they can possibly be, and that applies as well to the other two, not so much to the STA Hi End Max, but also more so to the STA Pro Max. But overall, and now that's what matters, is in terms of is the timbre and tonality, does it sound musical, does it sound realistic enough for it to be engaging and satisfying in any one of them? Phenomenal. So like I said, and let me just make that perfectly clear, if I take a more audiophile approach to it, is the timbre and tonality absolutely correct? No. If I take a more fun, engaging, musical approach, is the timbre and tonality correct? Definitely yes, definitely. And that slight lack of correctness, I think, is basically down to the fact that because we have this bass line on all of them, which is always very present and it's very rich, it takes away, it might tarnish that correctness only in terms of string instruments, okay, and also in terms of some wind instruments, and that's really the only place where I felt that the timbre and the tonality was tarnished in any way. And again, let me make it very clear so there's no misunderstandings. This is me nitpicking, because for me and for what I listen to and how I listen to the IEMs, nothing to be said. Soundstage, the best one out of all of them. Okay, taking account price, everything. This one. Okay, the STA Hi End Max is the one that has the best soundstage out of all of them. In terms of imaging, the STA Hi End Max and the SPA Hi End Max are the two best ones. In terms with these two then being the second in terms of the imaging and the soundstage. In terms of detailed retrieval, again, the STA Hi End Max and the SPA Hi End Max are the ones that have got the best detailed retrieval, with the other two then being second place. In terms of resolution, once again, SPA Hi End Max and STA Hi End Max are the ones that have got the best resolution. So, in a nutshell, and not to drag this for much longer, and now trying to kind of give you a conclusion out of all of this. EarAcoustic, out of the 4 IMs that I have listened so far, they have hit the nail on the head, full on. I have absolutely nothing but praise to give them. Okay, if there was any nitpick that I would give of let's say concern, if that is even a word that I would apply, is that I would have liked to have seen the STA Hi End Max priced at like 229, 239. So basically the price of the SIM God, the format. I would like to have seen it undercut the Origin. If that was the price point of the STA Hi End Max, I think that would attract more people to it. That would make more people more curious and not so hesitant whether they would like it or not, because there would be a $70 price difference basically to where the price now stands. Okay, in terms of the price of the rest of them, I think they're all well priced. 149, that's, you can't criticize it. I mean, this is going to be an IM that you can say is like on Falcon Ultra territory from Dongle. It's in the same territory as the Moondrop Cadence. It's in the same territory as the FD15 from FIO. Obviously, any one of those and this, they've all got different tuning styles, different presentations. They've all got their pluses and their minuses. In terms of sound, again, there's absolutely nothing that I can point as, oh no, it wasn't properly done, it's boring. No, if there's let's say the characteristics that you can take away from any one of these IMs is that they are very musical, very entertaining, and non-fatiguing in their listening experience for me. And I think that for those that have already had the chance to listen, they will agree with me. They are IMs which are easy to listen to for long and extended periods of times. One, they are always very fun and engaging. You always get your foot tapping, because that's the reality. They basically do most genres really well in an engaging manner. Okay, and with above all, what is a great sense of musicality. And I think ultimately that's what matters. I mean, if we're gonna have something stuck in our ears for hours, because we are commuting or whatever, we want it to be engaging, we want it to be satisfying, we want it to really transport us from our day-to-day lives and to a place where we feel relaxed. And okay, fine, I can understand that there are those of us that look at IMs and are wanting the ultimate detail and want to listen to the ultimate twinkle. But again, I don't know. I like some spice in my food. I don't like my food to be bland. And so that's basically what you have here. This is spicy earphones, in the sense that they've got their own identity. They're alive. They're fun. They're not, you're not just putting a piece of bread and butter in your mouth. That's it. Okay, fine, bread and butter. You can't go wrong there. It's bread and butter. It's bread and butter. But if it's with a peanut butter and jam sandwich, if it's properly done, I think that's a hell of a lot more interesting. In my opinion. Anyway, guys, that basically wraps it up. I'll show you now the graph so you guys can have a quick idea of what this is all about. And I just want to wrap up by saying, congratulations, EarAcoustic. I mean, you guys are doing, in my opinion, a phenomenal job. And I just hope that the models that I'm going to be getting now, which are slightly cheaper models, will also equally satisfy me and be models that I can wholeheartedly recommend. I mean, I can recommend any of these. If in terms of these two, which one would I choose? Like I said, yes, there is a difference in terms of overall energy level from one to the other, but in all honesty, you can't really go wrong with either one of them. You truthfully cannot go wrong. Okay, guys, let me show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up.